This Chinese spy ship was quietly following a U.S. aircraft carrier. What happened after the discovery was shocking. When a Chinese spy ship appears on the radar, the bridge crew immediately springs into action. They've rehearsed this scenario countless times during drills, and every person knows their role. The first step is to identify the vessel, its size, speed, heading, and most importantly, its intentions. Advanced radar systems like the AN-SPY-1 phased array radar scan the surrounding waters, providing detailed data on all nearby objects, even those more than 100 nautical miles away. Electro-optical and infrared sensors add another layer of precision, offering visual confirmation that works even in low-visibility conditions like fog or at night.
If the U.S. flies a balloon over China, it'll probably shoot it down. Look at this statement coming from the Chinese Defense Ministry. Quote, "The U.S. used force to attack our civilian unmanned..."
The bridge becomes a hub of activity, with officers exchanging updates and analyzing the data pouring in from multiple systems. Every action is calculated, and while the presence of a Chinese spy ship might not be unusual, it always raises the stakes. These vessels aren't merely curious, they're equipped to gather intelligence on the carrier group's movements, capabilities, and operations. The U.S. crew remains calm and methodical, adhering to strict protocols designed to de-escalate potential tensions.
If you're looking for a visual sighting, obviously satellite technology is so great that you can get, pictures down to, a few feet or in some cases a few inches. So the technology on the satellites, if it's some kind of a visual...
This encounter isn't just about spotting a ship, it's about ensuring that the carrier group remains secure while sending a clear message. The ship might be shadowing them, but the U.S. Navy is always watching, always prepared. Each step, from the radar ping to the officer's voice on the bridge, is part of a finely tuned response system, a mix of cutting-edge technology and human precision. When an unidentified ship comes into range, communication becomes the first line of defense. For the U.S. Navy, this means reaching out to establish the approaching vessel's identity and intentions. Using internationally recognized maritime frequencies, the carrier's communications team sends out a clear, professional message.
This is the United States Navy carrier conducting lawful operations in international waters. Please identify yourself and state your intentions.
It's direct, calm, and to the point.
Election agenda, which has raised concerns about China's security intentions in the Southwest Pacific recently, particularly in the Solomon Islands, which has signed a security pact with Beijing. The fact that this latest incident also happens so close to the...
If the ship responds and identifies itself as a Chinese spy vessel, the dialogue takes on a slightly different tone. The carrier's crew might reiterate,
"Chinese vessel, this is the United States Navy carrier. We request that you maintain a safe distance and avoid actions that could be misconstrued as hostile."
Even in these tense moments, the U.S. Navy emphasizes professionalism. It's not about provoking the other side, it's about asserting their right to operate freely under international law. The communication protocols extend beyond just words. They ensure that nothing gets lost in translation. The Navy's crew is trained in multiple languages, including Mandarin, so they can engage in clear dialogue with foreign vessels. This multilingual capability minimizes misunderstandings and keeps interactions focused on safety and mutual respect. Standardized procedures, such as those outlined in the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea, TEUs, help streamline these exchanges. The tone is always measured, avoiding escalation while maintaining a firm stance. While communication lines are open, the carrier's advanced sensor systems work tirelessly to analyze the situation. Radar operators monitor every movement of the Chinese spy ship, gathering critical information about its capabilities. The AN-SPY-1 radar, renowned for its precision, tracks the vessel from afar, while electronic warfare systems like the AN/SQQ-32 listen in on its emissions. These include radar signals, radio transmissions, and any other electronic signatures the spy ship might emit. Each signal tells a story, one that the carrier's analysts are eager to decode. In some cases, airborne assets are deployed to expand the surveillance net. The E-2 Hawkeye, with its distinctive radar dome, takes to the skies. This aircraft can detect and track hundreds of targets over hundreds of miles, providing a bird's-eye view of the area. It acts as the carrier group's early warning system, ensuring that no surprises come from the horizon or beyond. Meanwhile, the ship's electronic warfare specialists are busy analyzing the spy ship's actions. They look for unusual behavior or unfamiliar technology, like new radar frequencies or communication protocols. Every detail is logged and cross-referenced with existing intelligence databases. If the spy ship has undergone modifications or upgrades, this information is flagged for further investigation.
The U.S. presence here aimed at preventing further encroachment by China.
X-ray Charlie copies, no worries.
We're flying.
The intelligence gathering process isn't just reactive, it's proactive. By studying the spy ship's capabilities, the U.S. Navy can better understand China's evolving naval strategy. This isn't about confrontation, it's about staying one step ahead. Analysts on board sift through the gathered data, looking for patterns or anomalies that could hint at new tactics or technologies. Even when a Chinese spy ship is tailing a U.S. carrier group, the mission continues. These ships aren't out there just to flex their muscles, they're carrying out essential operations that range from freedom of navigation exercises to training drills with allies. The presence of a surveillance vessel is an annoyance, sure, but it doesn't derail the Navy's focus. Instead, the crew doubles down on staying sharp and ensuring that every action is deliberate and secure. One of the biggest concerns during these encounters is protecting sensitive information. Every military operation involves data that, if intercepted, could provide valuable insights to adversaries. To counter this, the Navy employs emission control procedures, or EMCON. This involves limiting the carrier's electronic emissions, like radar signals, communication frequencies, or even routine systems, to keep them from being picked up by the ship. It's like lowering the volume on a loudspeaker when you know someone's eavesdropping. While it requires precision and coordination, EMCON is a critical tool to minimize the risk of leaking useful intelligence. Sometimes, the carrier group also adjusts its training exercises. For instance, if a missile defense drill was planned, the timing or location might be altered. This ensures the spy ship doesn't get a front-row seat to observe techniques or collect telemetry data. The same goes for aircraft operations. Pilots might change flight paths or schedules to keep surveillance efforts guessing. These aren't drastic measures, they're just smart, strategic choices to ensure the mission gets done without giving away too much. The U.S. Navy rarely operates alone in contested waters, and that's a key advantage. In regions like the South China Sea, where tensions often run high, joint operations with allied nations are the norm. These collaborations aren't just symbolic, they're practical. Working together with allies creates a united front and makes surveillance by Chinese spy ships far more complicated. Allied ships bring extra eyes, ears, and tools to the operation. Imagine a carrier group sailing with vessels from nations like the Philippines or France. Each ship has its own set of sensors and surveillance equipment, allowing them to monitor the spy ship from multiple angles. This creates a more detailed and comprehensive picture of the ship's movements and intentions. It's a bit like solving a puzzle with more people and better clues. The result is an intelligence network that's much harder for any adversary to counter. One example of this teamwork came during recent joint exercises involving the USS Harper's Ferry, alongside ships from the Philippines and France. These operations highlighted how effective collaboration can be. Allied vessels not only helped track the Chinese spy ship, but also demonstrated the strength of their partnership. For China, this meant dealing with a coordinated effort that diluted their surveillance capabilities. For the Allies, it reinforced their shared commitment to ensuring free and open seas. Beyond intelligence gathering, these collaborations serve another purpose: they send a message. When multiple nations work together, they're saying, "We stand united." This kind of solidarity is a powerful deterrent. It shows that challenges to international norms, like freedom of navigation, won't go unopposed. The U.S. Navy, as the leader in these operations, plays a pivotal role in fostering this cooperation. Regular joint exercises, such as the annual Balikatan drills with the Philippines, ensure that these alliances remain strong and ready for high-pressure situations. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, acts as a kind of rulebook for how countries use the world's oceans. It defines maritime zones like territorial waters, exclusive economic zones, EEZs, and the high seas. While UNCLOS might sound like a dry legal document, it's crucial in situations like a U.S. aircraft carrier encountering a Chinese spy ship. It sets the boundaries and explains what each nation can and can't do. For example, a country's EEZ extends 200 nautical miles from its coast, allowing them economic rights but not full sovereignty. This means foreign vessels, including military ones, can legally operate in those waters without needing permission. These principles underpin many U.S. operations in disputed areas like the South China Sea. The U.S. is known for its Freedom of Navigation operations, or FONOPs. These missions are designed to challenge excessive maritime claims by sailing through disputed waters. For the U.S., it's about ensuring that international waters stay open to everyone, not just the country making bold claims. In the South China Sea, China's sweeping territorial claims clash directly with international norms. Its infamous 9-dash line, which covers nearly the entire South China Sea, isn't recognized under UNCLOS. This line overlaps with the EEZs of several countries, like the Philippines and Vietnam, sparking constant disputes. FONOPs often involve U.S. warships passing close to Chinese-claimed features, such as artificial islands bristling with military installations. These operations send a clear signal the U.S. doesn't recognize these claims and stands by international law. While legal under UNCLOS, these missions frequently anger Beijing, leading to protests and sometimes tense encounters at sea. Chinese vessels, including their spy ships, shadow U.S. operations, watching and gathering data. These interactions highlight a fundamental disagreement. The U.S. insists on upholding international norms, while China pushes its vision of sovereignty. These encounters carry significant legal and diplomatic weight. On one hand, they reinforce the U.S.'s role as a defender of international law and freedom of navigation. On the other, they underscore the tension between global powers vying for influence in the same waters. Even though the U.S. hasn't ratified UNCLOS due to domestic politics, it largely operates within its framework. For China, these standoffs are an opportunity to assert dominance in the region. The legal chess game at sea has far-reaching consequences, shaping alliances, diplomacy, and the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. The growing tension between the U.S. and China in the Indo-Pacific isn't just about ships at sea. It's part of a larger strategic competition between the world's two biggest powers.
But of course, cynics might see this as an opportunity to make political capital out of the incident in the run-up to the general election from Australia's point of view. But Mr. Dutton denied that he was making the revelation to stoke national security fears. And
the Indo-Pacific is a crucial region for trade, security, and influence, and neither side is willing to back down. For decades, the U.S. Navy has been the dominant force in these waters, with its carrier groups acting as floating fortresses of power. But China's rapid naval expansion is challenging that dominance, and these encounters are becoming a regular feature of their rivalry. China's Navy has grown remarkably fast, building everything from aircraft carriers to state-of-the-art destroyers and submarines. This isn't just about numbers, it's about capabilities. China wants a world-class Navy by 2049, and it's investing heavily in new technology to get there. Their spy ships, like the ones tailing U.S. carriers, are part of a broader strategy to gather intelligence and test the limits of U.S. operations. These vessels track American warships, probing their defenses and observing their tactics. It's a way for China to learn, adapt, and prepare for potential conflicts. These naval encounters are more than military maneuvers. They're symbolic of a power struggle over who controls the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. sees itself as a protector of free and open seas, while China views its growing presence as a return to regional dominance. Both sides are trying to assert their influence, and the sea has become their battleground. For the U.S., maintaining strong alliances with countries like Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines is key. For China, Building artificial islands and deploying ships in contested waters sends a message they're here to stay. The risk in all this is the potential for miscalculation. When two heavily armed ships are shadowing each other, even a small mistake can escalate quickly. An unplanned collision, a misinterpreted maneuver, or a communication breakdown could lead to a crisis. Both sides know the stakes, which is why frameworks like the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea exist. These agreements aim to keep interactions professional and reduce the chance of accidents. Still, the underlying competition makes every encounter a high-stakes game. Diplomacy is the invisible thread holding the fabric of maritime peace together. While naval standoffs between the US and China in the Indo-Pacific might seem purely military, diplomacy plays a critical role in ensuring these encounters don't spiral into outright conflict. Existing agreements like the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea, or CUES, are designed to prevent misunderstandings during unexpected interactions between naval forces. Think of CUES as a rule book for communication: clear protocols, standardized language, and agreed-upon behaviors that help both sides navigate tense situations without escalating them. Another key framework is the Military Maritime Consultative Agreement, or MMCA, which establishes channels for dialogue between the US and Chinese militaries. These agreements are meant to create mutual understanding and reduce the chances of accidents. However, agreements like CUES and MMCA have their limits. They work well when both parties follow the rules, but they're not foolproof. In high-tension scenarios, like when a spy ship shadows a carrier group, national pride, and strategic interests can push one side or the other to test boundaries. In those moments, even the best written protocols can struggle to hold things together. The problem isn't just about following rules, it's about trust. Both nations view the Indo-Pacific through different lenses. For the US, it's about maintaining freedom of navigation and international norms. For China, it's about asserting control over what it sees as its rightful territory. This clash of perspectives means that even with CUES and MMCA, the risk of misinterpretation or deliberate provocation is always present. What's clear is that continued dialogue is essential. Regular communication between military leaders, whether through formal agreements or informal channels, builds confidence and reduces the risk of accidental escalation. Confidence-building measures, like joint naval exercises or maritime security workshops, can also help both sides see each other as professional and capable, rather than unpredictable and dangerous. Diplomacy isn't about eliminating tension. It's about managing it in a way that avoids war. Preventing escalation requires a delicate balance. Both nations need to assert their interests without crossing lines that lead to conflict. Agreements like CUES and MMCA are valuable tools, but they're just one part of the puzzle. Real stability in the region depends on ongoing efforts to build trust, even in the face of competition. It's not easy, but it's necessary to keep the Indo-Pacific from becoming a flashpoint in the global power struggle. These naval encounters between the US and China are shaping the future of maritime strategy in ways we're only beginning to understand. Every time a US carrier is shadowed by a Chinese spy ship, both sides learn something new about tactics, technology, and the art of managing tension. These lessons feed directly into the evolution of naval doctrine, influencing how future operations are planned and executed. For the US Navy, maintaining a technological edge is crucial. Advanced radar, stealth capabilities, and electronic warfare tools are constantly being refined to outmatch potential adversaries. These encounters also highlight the importance of flexibility. Carrier groups need to be prepared for surveillance, electronic interference, and even cyber attacks. It's no longer just about guns and missiles. Modern naval strategy is a high-stakes game of information warfare, where controlling the flow of data can be just as important as controlling the seas. For international law, these encounters raise important questions. How should the global community handle disputes over maritime boundaries? What role should UNCLOS play in resolving conflicts like those in the South China Sea? As the US and China continue to test each other, the need for clear, enforceable rules becomes more urgent. These encounters aren't just military events. They're legal and diplomatic challenges that will shape the future of international norms. The stakes couldn't be higher. The Indo-Pacific is home to some of the world's busiest trade routes, carrying trillions of dollars in goods every year. Peace and stability in the region aren't just a military priority, they're an economic necessity. Any conflict, even a small one, could disrupt global supply chains and hurt economies far beyond the region. Maintaining peace means finding a balance between military readiness and diplomatic engagement. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.